All right, welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. We are here to talk about two of the most important topics, in my opinion. Yeah, cut. I'm gonna start over with all that. That was fun. Hold up, pull something up on the screen. All right, here we go. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome everyone. My name is Jonathan Cannon. I am the chapter development chair this year and for a few years running now. I originally started in the chapters in about 2006 when I helped to form my local chapter, the Central Texas chapter. I was on that board in one form or the other for about 10 years or so, until 2016. In 2014, I was asked to join the chapter development committee, and in 2012, I was asked to join. 2014, I was asked to become the chair of the committee. So I've been through a handful of these leadership workshops, and I'm so excited that we're doing what we're doing right now. It's something that the chapter has talked about for a while, something that we have tried to think about how we can reach more of the chapter members, not just the VPs or the secretaries or branch liaisons that we have in the past, but really be able to offer this information to more people. It's also allowed us to rearrange it a little bit. As you can tell, you've already seen a couple of the presentations. Some of them are titled the same, but we pulled some information out and kind of rearranged them. And I'm really excited because this presentation is one of those that we were able to combine two things that in my number of years of looking at and dealing with chapters and talking to the chapter leaders, year in and year out and throughout the year, there are certain issues that everyone has, whether you're a very small chapter, whether you're a chapter that is gigantic and it's a huge effort to keep it straight every year. There all seem to be the same core foundational issues. And so what we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about the chapter transition meetings and the outstanding awards chapter, outstanding chapter awards, excuse me. So right now, one of the things that is very important, especially in a time like this where everything's been up in the air for a few months, we probably all got sidetracked a little bit with just dealing with what's going on, but annual transition planning. What's going on? You guys have already seen the chapter administration presentation that goes over a lot of these resources for you, the bylaws, the policy guidelines, and those things are great. And one of the things that I love best about this workshop and having these conversations is that we get to remind you that those resources are there. And what goes on with the transition planning is it's another opportunity for you as a chapter to discuss that with people that are either new to your board, new members that are joining a board meeting, new committee members, people that are there and involved with what's going on that may have not had this exposure that you're getting right now through this process. Record maintenance, roles and responsibilities, a huge one. There's the topic of, I got on the board and you asked me to join and I want to help out, but what am I actually tasked with doing? And then of course the record transfer, and we'll talk more about the address of record in a second, but we'll get going from there. One of the things that this chapter did a few years ago is we identified the fact that there is a tool that we can help and we can provide to you that will check off a lot of the boxes of the year in and year out issues. And whether that issue is, again, like we talked about, you're on the board, you don't know what's going on, maybe a previous board member had to move for work or for family or for some reason, and they didn't get the opportunity to really hand the baton to you the way that you wanted to. The transition meeting is the perfect opportunity for us to have that conversation. And I want to run through this really quickly. This document is available on the website. It's available through your region director. Reach out to IIBEC staff. We can get this in your hands without a problem. But let's talk about some of the stuff that we're doing here. So right across the top, general information, but then check out the please read. Hey, we have the bylaws, we have the development manual, we have the guidelines. And as you saw, some of those documents are a little cumbersome. You know, they can be 15 pages or so a piece, but having those available and offering that up to people prior to this meeting and giving them the opportunity to kind of get to the point that they can have that conversation. They know what questions to ask. They get to get a little bit of a feel for what's being taken a look at. And then the please bring. Education is a huge topic for just about every chapter. You know, it's one of the cornerstones of what we do. We bring education, and through that we bring exposure to IIBEC to all of our local areas, whether we're in Canada, in Mexico now, wherever your chapter may be. We're at a point where we're doing that, and it works better if you get started early on that. There's definitely the ability to wait till the last minute. Everyone's done it. I've done it. I'm gonna guess just about everyone on the call has done it when it comes to getting presentations set up, getting things set up. So bring education topics and ideas, and then I'm gonna put this one. I think we even bolded this in the agenda here. List of a recommended person to replace you. Turnover is a huge thing that is something that chapters have talked about for forever. How do I not cycle through the board multiple times if you're in a smaller chapter or a bigger chapter in a lot of cases? That, you know, getting that volunteer can be cumbersome and can be difficult. But the key is to always be thinking about it. So on day one, this is a transition meeting. You're coming, it's your first meeting potentially on a board or your first meeting in a certain role. Knowing and having the thought that I need to be looking for the person that's going to replace me is paramount in my opinion. And then we won't run through all of these, but let's take a look at a couple of them. You know, let everyone know who the region director is. Again, one of the biggest resources you have. You know, let's provide an electronic copy or something of the handbook, the bylaws, if for no other reason that everyone knows where they are if they need to pull it up. A couple other things to talk about would just be the leadership workshop, and that is going to be being massaged. Again, the chapter development committee and IIBEC as a whole have kind of talked about how to morph this and provide a better platform, a better medium for the chapter leaders to spread everything out. So currently have the workshop. This year we're doing it in you know, a few hours at a time. In the future, it's potential that it's going to be spread out over the year, and there's going to be a lot of different things that, you know, we can offer presentations like this in a timely manner, where when you're talking about the chapter transition meeting and you're talking about the leadership the chapter awards application, something along those lines, you get the timely information versus it all being in the fall. And then obviously the chapter awards application is something that we really just want to discuss quite a bit. One thing that we do want to put out there, because this has been an issue for a handful of chapters, and it's not that they're derelict in their duty of really performing as a functional chapter, because in a lot of cases these chapters are functioning. But what happens is someone moves, someone forgets to remind the next person that there is an address of record, and you need to get the official correspondence coming into your chapters. A good option is a volunteer in your chapter, someone that's responsible, and that even if they need to step out of that role, they can definitely get into it and let the person that's replacing them know. A better option is a third party, because you're not depending on a volunteer at that point. There's someone there that you know they are going to be responsive to not only checking the address or the mailbox, whatever it may be, but they're also going to be responsible for, if, for instance, they have to leave, someone else is going to pick up that role. And again, you know, we're not trying to scare anyone, but the worst case scenario is you miss a few pieces of correspondence, and it's not hard to miss those, especially it can snowball into a couple of years that no one's really checked the mail for this registered this address of record. And worst case scenario is you could lose your charter, you could lose your legal side of your chapter. So we want to really push that everyone take and pay real close attention to the address of record. So the chapter awards program. We did just talk about the transition meeting. It gets you down the right path. The chapter awards program picks it right up and moves through with it. So what are we talking about? You know, if you're familiar with the chapter awards program, you've probably heard us say this a million times. If this is your first exposure to it, I want to be real clear that this isn't a competition. We're not pitting one chapter against the other. This entire process is designed as a guidebook for you as a chapter to help identify not only, you know, what you need to do as far as filing taxes, do the basic things that you have to do to maintain your legal identity, but also how to build upon that. You know, if you get to a point where, hey guys, last year was kind of easy, we were able to get everything done and we had plenty of time, do we want to step it up this year? This is what you're going to use. This document and this program, this is what you're going to use to figure out how to do that. And again, one of the biggest things that you're going to get is an aid for leadership transition. It provides new leaders, and again, the whole goal is to bring in new blood, right? I mean, that's what we all want to do, is just bring in new people and have them know that not only do you have our support, but then we have this documentation from previous years. You know, did we do certain education programs last year that worked and didn't work? Did we move a meeting time from an evening to a lunch? What changes did that help with? So the continuity year to year, and identify the tasks that the chapter wants to perform, you know, going forward. And then also, of course, it allows you to be recognized for your efforts. And we'll talk about those here in a minute. Historical documentation, again, we kind of talked about this. But one of the things that I've seen that's a huge benefit is identifying previous people that were involved that maybe didn't go as far as joining the board, but they were a committee member. And at the time, they just weren't ready to join the board. So if you have a list of those previous committee members, you can always go back and reach out to them and see if they're ready for this now. And the chapter boards, again, can always use these documents as a reference for what they're planning to do. I worked with an individual that he was a CSI historian for the local chapter for almost 30 years, and he had a wall full of accordion files. And what that wall was doing was documenting the exact same thing that this document that's electronic does for us. So we've taken advantage of the technology and helped to update that. So you're no longer passing along the hard copies of everything every year and taking up an entire wall in your garage or your office or whoever happens to be storing that. And like we talked about, you get the recognition. There are various levels that we'll talk about in more detail in a minute, but getting to the bronze level is a huge achievement for chapters, to get to that point that you are sustainable and that you're functioning. And if you go and you move up that awards recommendation ladder and you get to a platinum, then that is something that you should be very proud of. It's not easy. It takes a lot of work to get to that point. We'll talk about that a bit more. So let's go through a little bit of the instructions here. I believe it was 2016 was the first year that this general version of the application was introduced. If you've been around a while, or you were around and had to take a break and you're back now, if you remember prior to that, the application was a bit cumbersome. You had to write paragraphs, you had to handwrite paragraphs or type them into a PDF document. The tallies for your points were all manually done. It was cumbersome on the chapter, and it had the ability to make people not want to do it. And it was cumbersome on the association. The individuals having to review and confirm the applications were extremely difficult. So what we've done here is we have an Excel format now, calculations total by themselves. the various fields in the application. If you enter the name of your president once, it repopulates it everywhere. So we're trying to, as an association, make this process as easy as possible while still getting the full benefit of the application itself. Again, we're going to go over a few of these items here that we wanted to highlight for you. Applications are due no later than January 15th the following year. So the application for 2020 will be due January 15th, 2021. Those go to Tara. I'm sure throughout this process you'll get better introduced to Tara, but her information is right here. It's important to note that the vice president, based on your bylaws, is the person responsible for managing the preparation of the application. They are not necessarily being dictated to be the people that fill everything out. The vice president, as an individual, can set up a committee. They can do whatever they need to do. If you have someone that's filled it out in the past and they understand the process, it just needs to be managed by the VP. President and secretary both will review it. There's a certification page that they will need to acknowledge they've read it. And this is one that we're going to touch on here in a second, and I don't want this one to scare you, but if it's read, if the text is read, it's a required item. Meaning, if you don't submit that item and you don't document it with an attachment that we'll talk about in a second, then you're kind of disqualified. And that sounds like a very strong word, disqualified. But I want to hold off on that just for a second, and we're going to talk about some of the red text items. They are not anything that would be more than the baseline of what you're doing. And again, non-responsive if you don't provide those. There are certain items in the application that require additional attachments. Those attachments are not things that we would anticipate you're having to produce for the sole purpose of this application. These are things like your meeting minutes. If you're going to claim that you have a certain committee, that committee should have at least been mentioned once throughout the year in either a board meeting where they had a separate committee meeting all itself. So something just says, hey, we do have this, versus requesting points just for points' sake, which is the last thing that we want to encourage anyone to do. And again, the failure to produce that documentation, it doesn't mean at that point, if it wasn't in red and you didn't provide the attachment, it doesn't mean that your application is rejected. It just means we may ask you for it, and if we don't get it, then no big deal. Those points come off of your total. Again, the application, each section is graded individually, and we did this on purpose because we want you as a chapter to take a look at those sections individually. Your administration, your education department, the philanthropic side of what you do. If you have that, if you don't have it, that's fine. But again, what this does is it helps you identify not only what you are doing well at, but areas that you might potentially have growth in. So as we move forward with it, and you want to try to build up and move up that recognition ladder, this will clearly let you know where you can do that. Again, talking about the frozen a little bit here, I like it. Each section is scored individually. We talked about this. There are a couple of sections that are required, and again, because they have those red items, you have to pass these. And again, we'll talk about it more in a second. But chapter administration, finance, membership, and education. Those are kind of the four main pillars of a chapter. Everything else is you going above and beyond and really representing IIBEC at the local level, which is our main goal. List of attachments, we talked about this. I'm going to give you 2 seconds here to look at that, and I'm probably going to be able to hear everyone on the call sigh from where I'm at in Austin, Texas right now. There are 25 attachments. That doesn't mean you have to provide something for every one of these. I don't know that any chapter provides and gets all of the points that are associated with these attachments. For instance, yes, your board meeting minutes, you're going to want to attach those. But if you get down and you have, let's look at number 20. If no one in your chapter provided a technical article or a news post to IIBEC, no big deal. I mean, you don't delete the attachment folder, but you just don't put anything in there and that's kind of how that works. This is what the association on the board side is going to look at to determine if your points are valid, if they're not. Again, provide each attachment in the submittal, and if you don't have it, it just remains empty. You don't delete them. So let's look a little closer to chapter administration. Every section is kind of laid out the way that this one is here. At the top, we have executive committee members, directors, chapter branches, branch liaison names, and then even potential chapter branch and contact information. Again, once you enter the president's name, it's going to populate throughout pretty much everything else. So let's look at a couple of those red items that we're talking about. And this is, again, the chapter administration tab, but 1.1, did you have 3 regularly scheduled board meetings? Now, this is a requirement under your chapter bylaws. If you don't have at least 3 board meetings throughout the year, you are probably struggling a little bit with just the day-to-day functioning of the chapter. And again, we live in a world where distance is not necessarily as limiting of a factor as it was previously. If some of your board meeting members live 3 hours away, we can make that work. But meeting minutes getting documented and those getting attached. And then one thing we definitely have to highlight is the fact that the region director should be copied on those meeting minutes. I'm gonna give you a little wink, wink, heads up. It does not say that they have to be provided the day of or 3 days later or within a week. But what we want to have happen is the region director knows what you're doing. So if you're a month behind and you, for whatever reason, something popped up and you didn't get meeting minutes made for a month, just get them to the region director so that they realize what they are doing or what you're doing, excuse me, and let them help when they can. We have fantastic region directors, and they only seem to be getting better every single year. So it's very important to keep them involved. And then you have a current copy of your bylaws. This was an issue when I first started on the committee. And we used to play this little game when we go through the chapter administration presentation and the bylaws presentation, and raise your hand if you knew you had bylaws or if you've ever read them. And we are very happy to say that over the years, those number of hands have gone down, but this is just a place to keep a good contact with it. So again, you're not producing anything new. We're not changing bylaws. We're just providing the documentation. And then of course, there are different items that go down the list that that we feel that would benefit you. For instance, did one person, we'll look at 1.7, did one person attend the chapter leadership workshop? You get 20 points for that. Let's talk about the points just for a second. Points allotted have been identified by the association, by this committee, and that's a constantly changing thing. There are new items added and massaged and adjusted every year, and we appreciate the feedback when we get that. But there are points allowed, and then you have points earned. The points earned are totaled by themselves at the bottom of the page. And then you'll notice just to the left of that bottom circle that there is a passing score assigned to each of the sections. Once you reach that, the pass in the bottom right corner will turn green. And then any points you get in addition to that just go to your overall total for the entire application, but also for this section. So if you get to a point right now where, again, this one has 175 points available, and you're hitting 120, you're up at 150 level, you're doing really well. If you're sticking at 20 throughout the year, then there are things that you can do at the chapter administration level to help build the chapter and to meet the goals that you set for yourself. So finance, talk about that just briefly. Again, setup very similar. Top, finance committee information, directors if you have one. One thing we do like to see, again, this is not in red, it's not required. We have had comments that it's difficult to gather all this information, but it's a good idea if you know what your bank balance was at the end of the previous year, and you know what it is towards the end of the year. Are you wasting money? Are you making too much money? Where do you stand? Same thing with your personal life. You need to balance your checkbook every once in a while. The red items for the chapter administration are going to be, are you incorporated in your state? Yes, you are. Just make sure you have that piece of paper that you can turn in every year that says that. And then did you file your tax return? You have to do that to maintain solvent. So that is something that the association really follows up on. You'll figure that out as you are joining the board now or thinking of joining the board, and you get emails from Tara saying it's that time of year, we're looking for your paperwork. So again, nothing earth-shattering, nothing that you need to be doing beyond what you would normally do from year to year. But those are certain specific items that you need to be able to provide. Membership, again, very similar format. Total points 125, passing score is 15 points. Yes, you have to pass membership, but it's 15 points. If you have a committee, if you members are, or if your local members are required by the bylaws to be IIBEC members, which they are, then you're going to be past that point, that threshold without an issue. Education, again, same way. This is one that we have had questions on in the past, where if a chapter provides 1 to 5 CEHs or 6 to 10, if you pass the 4.2 to 1.5, you get those points. If you pass the 4.3, you also get those points. So it kind of adds on. It's not difficult to get to the passing score at 35 with this. And throughout the year, if you have any questions on this, please reach out to, again, the region director or your region or the staff to be able to clarify what's going on. Additional sections, we're not going to go through all of these, but I really encourage everyone to get their presentation, get their application in their hands. And we have a little bit of time between right now while I'm recording this and the option of going through this at the same time. So maybe we'll try to reinforce that everyone can have a copy of this on hand on your computer screen or a hard copy, so that you can kind of go through this with us. But there are 12 total sections: your registration, long-term planning, archives, marketing. You see the list here, and each one of those has additional recommendations as to what you can potentially do to bolster your chapter in the form of those items. Application summary, this is kind of where it all comes together. And again, this page for the most part is completely autonomous. It does it on its own. You'll see the points available, the points earned, and then the status. So as you come through this and you earn points, it'll update your status as to pass or not based on those baseline point numbers. And then as you move forward, the total points earned will get up to what has been requested, and it'll update your chapter award level. So as you move through the chapter award levels, we have bronze, which is 90 points to begin with, up to 300, silver 301 to 600, gold 601 to 900, and platinum 901 to a little over 1,000. Again, achieving any of these levels is a huge achievement. It's the step in the right direction for your chapter to ensure that you're not only doing what you need to do, but you know what you can do in addition if you so choose to bolster the effectiveness of your chapter and the health of your chapter. So as we move through that, again, I want to point out this is not a competition. You are not going to get in trouble if you didn't get to a gold, or if you were at a gold one year and a silver the next. All that really is it lets you know, it highlights something for you that, hey, maybe what did we not do this year that we did the previous year? So please think about and utilize this application as the tool it's intended to really just help you with the health of the chapter, the longevity of the chapter. If things start to fall off one year, it's easy for a region director to identify that through this process, so, and help out where they can. So I do want to, again, highlight the fact that we had two things that we talked about. And in my opinion, those two things are pillars of what we really look at and what helps a chapter out. And that's going to be this chapter awards program, and it's going to be the annual transition meeting. If you do those two things, it's almost guaranteed that you're going to be healthy as a chapter. I mean, yes, can we always do more? Definitely. But if we follow those two baseline ideas and implement those in our year-to-year operation of the chapters, you're going to find yourself answering a lot of these questions that we on the committee have heard throughout the year. How do I find new people? What are we doing education-wise? What is required of me from a tax standpoint? Those kind of things that people coming into an association at a grassroots level, at the chapter level, may not have any previous experience with. And these two things are going to get you there. So again, I appreciate your time. I know this new format with the webinars is a little difficult. I apologize for having to reach up here, and I'm sorry if you can hear kids in the background. I'm along the lines of a lot of the people that are doing what's going on right now. I have kids on the other side of the structure here that are going to school right now, and I keep having to reach up and click on things because as I went to find my little clicker here, I don't know, it's sticky for some reason. It's kind of gross and it didn't work. I know why it's sticky. I have 3 small girls that are trying to do education, and they find ways to just do other things throughout the year. But that's okay. It's been a lot of fun. I appreciate the time. And again, please do not have any hesitations in reaching out with questions, whether you do it in this format here during the question and answer section, or if you reach out independently to region directors or staff. Again, I appreciate the time, and good luck to everybody. Talk to you soon.
Smooth as silk. That was perfect. Oh. I'll get that first little tiny bit when you first started. Otherwise, I don't think it needs editing. I think it's pretty great.
How long was it? Did I go way over?
I don't think so. I won't be able to know until it downloads. It doesn't show me a real-time thing, but I don't think that you did, actually.
I don't remember what time it started. It felt like I was going long there at the end, but all right. Anything that I could add to it that we didn't hit on that we need to hit on?
I think it was pretty good. I mean, you covered all the topics. No, I think you explained everything really well.
Okay.
I really do. I think it was really good. I'm not blowing smoke.
No, if you need to see if we need to add something to it, just let me know. We'll take care of it.
Well, and we're gonna ask that you pop on live afterwards, so you can do any kind of Q&A. I've got it on the schedule, and actually, I need to send you that revised one for the 8th. But we'll just let everyone know where the questions box is. It's in the dashboard, and you'll be able to bring that out and read whatever questions you'd like. You know, if there are any technical questions, like I can't hear anything, we'll handle that in the background. Don't worry about that. I'm gonna have either Carolyn or Mindy or both helping with that kind of stuff. So we'll take care of that. And otherwise, it's just
I will have control of the organization of it, or are somebody else have control and they'll read questions and I'll answer them, or somebody else?
So I will control what's on the screen. I'm going to have multiple recordings loaded in, and I'm working with, trying to figure out how to have slides with the sponsor information and sponsor videos popping up. So I'll do that. I've got Carolyn and or Mindy in the background to help with any technical questions. If anybody's saying, oh, I registered and can't get in, they're going to handle that. All I need you to do on each day is introduce everyone, or introduce the day, welcome, thank you, blah, blah, blah. Here is the questions feature in the dashboard, which you'll see it's that little line on the dashboard, generally on the right-hand side of the screen. And that expands, and you can actually pop that out and read that pretty easily. If you click the little square with the arrow pointing at the corner, and we can either respond to technical questions specifically to that person or to the whole audience if it's something helpful. But at the end for Q&A, you'll be able to just read the questions that came to you and answer them live on screen. Okay. And it's not unusual to not have any questions. That happened a lot at convention. That just means it's a good presentation. And if there are any questions after the fact that we missed, we can download a report of them. It'll give us their email address, and we can get with them after the fact.
Okay. And I did have that thought kind of in the middle of the presentation that if we could, just make sure everyone has a copy of the awards application, the day before or something, just, hey, here's the award application we're going to be going through. You might pull it up.
You know what? I can upload that. I think I can upload that as a handout. And so that's something that they can download. I haven't updated uploaded an Excel spreadsheet in these yet. I don't see why we wouldn't be able to. And if for some reason we can't, I'll just email it out beforehand. That's no problem.
Awesome.
Yeah, let's see. I'm writing this down right
Okie doke.
Yeah.
What else can I do?
Sorry?
What else can I do to help between now and then?
The breakout sessions are really the only outstanding thing. I'm going to be running some.
Everyone saying.
Do what?
I need to send that email to everyone that we talked about.
Yeah, I mean that's really it. You know, I'm going to be running some rehearsals with staff members about to do the breakout sessions, bringing everybody in, sending them out to their rooms, and doing basically the warnings, like 5-minute warning. So essentially, we'll have a 15-minute session, 20-minute session, and 15. And that's just to allow for introductions, and that's going to be the last day. So I figured if you can pop on that last day at the very end and just say, hey, thank you all so much for joining us. That's it. That's all she wrote. And that would be perfect.
I pulled up the schedule earlier today, and did I lose it? It had me in there a couple of days, right? Just saying hello and welcome, and which is perfectly fine.
Yeah, is that okay? I know we briefly had kind of talked about you just popping on just to welcome everyone, and you know, and if something pops up, you know, I can bring in Brian. You know, it's not going to be a big deal. So we've got a lot of flexibility with this, which is the good part. So yeah, no pressure.
Not a problem at all.
Awesome.
Cool. Well, thank you for all your help and your patience while I finagled through all this fun technology stuff.
Great. This went smooth as silk. Trust me. This was great. You had nothing to worry about.
Appreciate it.
All right. Well, I'm sure I'll be talking to you soon.
Yeah. Let me know if something pops up.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.